Hi, welcome back to the channel. Today we're just gonna go straight into it. We are looking at our AITAH. Okay, so first up, someone at work stole my chair, so I had them arrested. You can do that? What you mean? Did you have information about them before? You know what, let me not speculate and just get into it. Okay. I got a new job in sales working for a company that sells access control systems, CCTV systems, etc. The chair in my cubicle was uncomfortable AF, so day 3 I brought in my own Herman Miller Aeron chair. Pause. Oh, okay. Standard office chair, it looks like. Okay, not bad. On day 4, it was missing. So I looked around, another sales rep was sitting in it. Asked for it back, but he basically told me to F off. I went and spoke to the owner of the company. He told me that the chairs aren't reserved. They're first come, first serve. I explained that I own the chair and it cost me $1,800. Did I not look at the prices on that? Sorry, what? He told me that I need to come in earlier if I want that chair. The next day, the same guy was sitting in it when I got to the office. I told him to give it back or I was going to call the cops. He refused, so I called the cops. It was quite the scene, but and he admitted that he took my $800 chair. I was repaired. I had the receipt which showed the serial number. Yes, Aeron chairs have serial numbers. They asked me if I wanted to press charges. My new boss said I would be terminated if I had him arrested, so I said, absolutely, I want to press charges. My new boss fired me on the spot, so I carried my chair out with me as I was leaving. And yes, the cops arrested the dude who took my chair. He admitted to it. The dude who took my chair has been in the industry for about 15 years, but he's going to lose his security license, which means he won't be able to work in the industry. He's going to lose his job. I don't give a shit. He shouldn't have stolen my chair. I'm sorry, is this real? Sorry, am I the a-hole for making this dude lose his job? Is this real? I'm more surprised a chair that... Sorry, let me look at this again. Oh my goodness. Why do they cost this much? I don't understand. Oh God, and they have good reviews? Are they that good? Is that like the industry standard of chair? Also, for you to just... Never mind, let me get into the comments. Due to lower back issues, I have always provided my own desk chair and made sure it was clearly marked that it was my personal property. I also used a bicycle cable log to secure my chair to my desk at the end of the day. One coworker had his office chair disappear, so he sent an email to the entire global company address book. It was hysterically funny to read the response emails. I worked in a call center years ago and had a coworker who crazy glued a big old sign with large letters. Name's chair, do not touch. It worked. No one touched her chair. I guess this is a thing. I mean, I've never personally worked in an office, but I have heard of people stealing things, like whether it be out of your desk or like taking your lunch out of the fridge, you know? So I guess it's not, but a chair? And to not blatantly give it back is kind of crazy. And the fact you got him arrested for it is insane. But good on you, again. If it's real. I still can't wrap my mind around this being real. But the fact you, were like, I want to press charges. You got fired and you walked out with your chair. Good on you. Maybe a couple more comments. I worked at a Canadian university that was somewhat famous for an ergonomic research center on campus. At the time I got hired, everybody on my team got fitted for a custom chair. I'm not a small man, and the chair they got me was both perfectly fit for the way I sit and the way I type, and when I looked it up online, it cost about $2,500. When we went remote for COVID, I convinced them to let me take my chair home with me and had a friend with a pickup help. That chair has now moved with me twice, and nobody has ever asked for it back when I left. Because everybody had good chairs, though there was never any sort of fighting over the good chairs. My boss's boss told me that the ergonomic center did the fittings for free and got them the discounts, and he figured it was the best investment he could make to keep his employees happy. The discounts the big companies get are crazy. One company I worked for also offered the discount scheme to employees who wanted to get one themselves. I got a Herman Miller 1,600 RP chair for $600 after the company discount and tax write-off. They're not cheap for companies, but they're not paying $2,500 per unit either like regular customers. When I worked for an oil company, I went to the dealership they bought all their company trucks from. I got $20,000 off a brand new truck just because I work for them. A few months later, my wife wanted a Mustang, so we went back to the same dealership and got a brand new $40,000 Mustang for $28,000. To this day, the best perk I got from a job. Like, I've heard of employee discounts, company discounts, but to that extent, like, it makes sense, but wow, it's crazy. Next one. Am I the a-hole for saying no child support, no opinion? I, 17, think I might have to explain how I was born for context. My mom has two friends. I'll call them Amelia and Jessica. Jessica's husband cheated on her with Amelia, getting her pregnant, but Jessica forgave them. Then he cheated on her with my mom. Jessica still forgave him and forgave my mom, which makes me think she's probably the most forgiving person on the planet. Oh my god, that could not be me. Okay, sorry. What? Anyways, my mom insisted that Jessica's husband is my father, but he always denied it. Up until several months ago when he realized how much we look alike. So he agreed to do a DNA test. Turns out he is my father. The two affair children by two different women for him. He has been visiting about once a month, but things are so awkward between us. I was reading a romance novel when he told me I'm too young for those books, and I said I must stop reading them. I told him I won't, but he said I have to listen to him because since he is my father, so I said no child support, no opinion. He seemed pretty stung by it. Was it too much? Absolutely not. I'm sorry. Possibly a hot take, but someone who was not, and again, I do think people can make up for time lost to a certain extent, but the other party also has to be receptive of you trying to mend things, right? But for this young girl to be like, hey, I don't want your opinion. I'm going to do what I want to do because I'm allowed to enjoy this thing, isn't wrong. Like, he wasn't, like, I guess good on him for eventually being a bit receptive to being like, oh, hey, you know what? They do look like me. Let's get a DNA test. And then trying to be around a bit more. But to automatically assume that he has precedence over you because he is now trying to be your father is insane. That is so odd. Like, don't get me wrong. I do think you should respect elders typically and parents as long as they offer you respect as well. And that will look different to different people, right? Honestly, I have a tidbit. I mentioned in a previous video that, you know, my relationship with my father is kind of strained because of how my parents' relationship ended. And, you know, there's supposed cheating there too. And recently we had to get together because we had to fly somewhere for my mother's funeral. And it was cheaper to share a hotel. And, again, things are awkward. It put us in too close proximity. Someone I haven't really kept up with for years at that point, right? And I'm like scrolling on my phone on across the room on my bed, and he's like eating while watching TV on his, and he's like watching the news, and he starts saying something about this woman on the screen. And so I like glance up, and I don't know celebrities like that. I don't know who it was, but she was very pretty. Was in a short skirt, very tight clothes, showing her stuff. And he started talking about her because he's conservative. I'm not. No, I'm not no. But I'm like, oh yeah, she looks good. And I just kept scrolling on my phone. And then he started to make comments about tattoos, which I didn't even notice first, but I was like, oh, I mean, what's wrong with getting a tattoo? She wanted it. Like, it's her body, why not? And then I happened to mention that I eventually wanted tattoos. And so I'm like still scrolling on my phone, and when you can feel someone staring at you? He was staring at me. So I look up, I look at him, and I'm like, what? And he's like, what? Why would you get a tattoo? And I'm like, oh, because I've been thinking about it for years, and gonna mean a lot to me. Have it all like planned out. And he's like, well, what if I asked you not to? And I said, well, I want it, so I'm still going to get it. And he's like, even though I'm your father and asking you not to? And again, it's like very odd to me that someone's trying to dictate your movements and your actions despite not being there for a lot of your life. It's very weird. And I said it to him like, yeah, because it's something I want. And I could tell he took offense to that because he's like, just by the look on his face, like he was hurt by it. But I said, if my mother was still here, I would tell her the same thing. Because I could get into such a long conversation about the dynamics of that, but I'll stop right now. It's very odd. I don't think he has any right to do that. And I know some people may disagree because they're going to be like, oh, but he's still your blood parent. He still deserves, respect. And again, she can give him respect, but he also needs to respect her too, as her own person. And respect that he is not currently in the place to be making demands like that. Okay? Sorry. I ranted for a little too long. NTA at all, he may be your father, but he isn't your dad. Also, WTF, you're almost an adult. You can't just butt into your life in your adulthood and try to playing parent. You did nothing wrong. Yeah, it's not. I just don't think it's right. And obviously, he's not a good authority on morals. Also true. I will say, and I feel like I have to say anytime cheating's involved, I am very biased when it comes to cheaters. I probably do judge them a lot more harshly. That's just me being blunt about it, being upfront about it, rather. Yeah, I'd be like, don't you have a wife to cheat on or something? Yeah, I don't think he has a right. Let's see what else there is. Perfectly quote retweeted. He may be your father, but he isn't your dad. Oh, retweeted. This isn't Twitter. Sorry. Quoted. I've been on Twitter too much. Quoted. He may be your father, but he isn't your dad. Perfectly said. In situations like these, I've seen people use either sire or donor instead of father dad because that's basically all he is. OP's donor and mom both need to learn that shared genetics doesn't make someone a parent, and if he pushes OP now, he's just going to be cut out of her adult life. Yeah. And especially since he's only visiting once a month anyways. Seriously, he wants to act like a parent, but he's still barely spending time with OP. Ridiculous. Yeah, I don't know the ins and outs of that situation, but once a month isn't anything. Is he also like trying to contact you outside of it, like via phone calls or text? Because yeah, it's just so odd. LMAO, yeah, reminds me of my granddad who was against me being gay. It was like, Grandpa, you're a vicar who ran off with a member of his own congregation when your wife was diagnosed with MS. Are you sure you want to lecture me on the sanctity of marriage? Oh, I can still have an opinion. No, actually, sometimes you can't. Your grandpa would be an example of that. Some people really do forfeit the right to have an opinion and be taken seriously at the same time, forevermore until they die. Yeah. Yeah. At the end of the day, especially if someone's an adult or nearing adulthood, where they're like either growing into themselves or know themselves, like, what right do you have to try to, you'll have an opinion. Everyone has an opinion. But after a certain point, you can't force anyone to do what you want. Okay. I think that's all. Sorry, actually, let's read one more. One more little thready thread. Not the a-hole. You're 17, not 13. He doesn't get to swoop in the third act and pretend like he's always been around. It doesn't even have to do with child support, but you get bonus points for the clap back. Love the energy. Even more so, given he's been denying for years that he's the sperm donor, even though OP's mom said he was. Which means he thinks OP's mom has been lying all these years and was messing around with someone else as well as him, because it's what he'd do. These three women should all go, witches of Brunswick on this guy. Not sure that'd be harsh enough. And for his information, I was reading my mother's collection of romance type at 16. It wasn't any more graphic than some of her locker room talk. It may not be universal, but over here we're given sex ed, even in elementary school, and no abstinence thing. Just an explanation on how stuff works, how babies are born, what's contraception, etc. And that's in Catholic Italy in the early 90s. So yeah, even the more scandalous romance novels will be nothing new. Just about anybody that went to public school in the last 30 years or so, at least in theory. You know, I'm not going to get into the things I would read as a kid. And without my parents' knowledge, I'm going to be honest. But I turned out fine. Next one. This one might be just a warning. This one might be a little, just from my quick skim through here, this one might be a little more heavy. Am I the a-hole for refusing to babysit my sister's miracle baby after what she did to my dog? Again, sounds like it's going to be rough. It has the tag advice needed as well. So my sister, 32F, had a baby last year after years of struggling with infertility. We were all happy for her. She called him her miracle baby, and honestly, I didn't mind the attention he got until things got weird. I, 28F, have a golden retriever named Benny. He's 5. Sweetest boy alive. Everyone in the family loves him. Even my sister used to until the baby came along. One time I brought Benny over when I visited. He stayed on his mat and didn't bark or even move. The baby started crying and my sister went, I think he's making the baby nervous, and asked me to put him outside in the middle of winter. I said no and left early. That was strike one. Next time I saw her, she told me straight up she didn't want Benny around her son because he's a dog. I said okay, whatever, and stopped bringing him, but I could tell something shifted. Then one day, I was out of town for a weekend and she begged me to let her stay at my place because hers was getting fumigated. I agreed, thinking it was chill. I came home Sunday night. Benny is hiding under the bed, trembling, looking all scared. I found out she locked him in the laundry room for 2 days straight because he was staring too much. and that made the baby fussy. No food or water bowl just locked him. Oh my god, that poor baby. Why would you do that to an animal? What? Oh, okay, sorry. Let me... I lost it. Told her she was never setting foot in my house again, that she was lucky I didn't call animal services. Fast forward a month, she's going back to work, and suddenly I'm her first choice for free childcare. Wants me to watch her baby 2 days a week. I said no. She flipped and called me bitter and selfish, said clearly I don't understand what it means to love family unconditionally. My mom got involved and said I'm being cruel when I could be helping. But this isn't just about a dog. It's about how she treated something I love without remorse and now expects me to drop everything and help her like nothing happened. Am I the a-hole for saying no to babysitting my nephew because of what she did to my dog? Absolutely not. You are not the a-hole. I don't care what species it is, whether it's, again, a child or an animal, whatever. You don't just take food and water away from a living thing. Like, you don't do that. That is insane. And the fact that he was so scared, he was hiding under your bed, makes me think she was either yelling at him or hitting him or kicking at him or doing something to make him so terrified. That is foul. I'm not gonna lie, oh my god, this is such a fear for me too, because I have one cat, and one day I'll get more, but I have one cat, and his name is Icarus, and he means the absolute world to me. Okay, that is my fur baby. He has gotten me through the roughest points in my life. Okay, he means the world to me, and sometimes I do think about traveling, or like, let's say I had a family emergency, which would make me have to travel outside of the state again. I worry about him because he's a very anxious cat. As much as I would like to take him with me, I can't because of his anxiety. But at the same time, it's like, I don't trust anyone else to properly take care of him. He has kidney disease, he has diabetes, and in general, you are, again, putting something you love and care for into someone else's hands. And you don't know what those hands are going to do. Like, obviously, you left your dog with her because you thought he would be safe, and that turned out to be false. She literally starved him, mistreated him, and that, oh, it's so frustrating people can do that. My God, you're not the a-hole, and the fact that your mother is also like taking up for her despite what she did is absolutely insane. Like, just because someone has a child doesn't mean their actions are just, you just forgive and forget, and you're like, yeah, I'll be your free childcare. Like, that's not what community is supposed to be. Like, it's not supposed to be a one-sided, like, fucking street. Sorry. What? That made me mad. Let's look at some comments. Sorry. NTA, what she did to Benny is horrible. You trusted her with him and she locked him and didn't give him food or water. Also, she has no right to claim your time anyway. Correct. Again, you lead separate lives. Again, I do think community is important. You should help out when you can. Not in the situation. I'm just speaking in a general sense. But again, life is hard. Technically, no one has a claim to your time. Familial bond or not. Okay, sorry. It also likely conditions the dog to be afraid and are agitated around little kids now. And the kid to be afraid to interested in dogs. This is how you end up with a reactive dog and a kid that runs around pulling tails like an idiot. Comment says, a dog with no food or water would be sick, but why would they be cowering in fear? I have an awful feeling there's a part of the story OP doesn't even know. That's what I thought. Like, again, I do think they would have been sick and frail, dehydrated. But again, why were they cowering in fear? I think they were kicking and yelling at him. They did something to that dog. My thoughts exactly. My guess is that the dog had needs and expressed them through barking. Whether or not the baby reacted to it, the sister definitely would have, verbally and almost certainly physically as well. Benny. And if the sister had such a problem with OP's dog, why did she want to stay at her house knowing the dog would have been there? There's a lot of manipulation going on here by the sister, 100%. Like, I did find it odd that he states, oh, I don't want you to bring the dog around anymore because it makes the baby fussy. But then you ask to stay, not only like stay at, let's look at it. Yeah, she says, I was out of town for a weekend and she begged me to let her stay at my place because hers was getting fumigated. And this is after she already said the dog makes the child fussy. I think she knew. She already had a plan. That is so upsetting. Yeah, very upsetting. I hope you never have let your sister, and at this point your mother, and anyone else who condones that behavior around your dog. Please protect him. They are just, animals are just little guys, man. Okay? Why are you mistreating them? Please. Protect your pets. Okay, that one was rough, sorry. I wish I did a trigger warning for possible, I think it's kind of certain, animal abuse. Yeah. I hope you enjoyed listening. I'm gonna go hug my cat and tell him he's a good boy. So, have a good day. Thank you for watching.